Good morning. Hope everybody can hear me. My name is Rhonda Kaler. I'm a member of Rondale Baptist Church here in Winnipeg, and this is actually my first Mission Fest. I kind of figured, well, if I'm going to do this, then I might as well start at the top. So that's why I'm your host today. So the breakout session this hour is titled Engaging the Unreached. Before I introduce you to our presenter, I just wanted you to know that this session is being live streamed, so you may be on the video. If you'd like to see any of the other sessions that you may have missed, then you're welcome to go to the Mission Fest YouTube channel and check them out at a later date. So without further ado, I guess I'll introduce you to Tim Noble from OMF.
Thank you very much, Rhonda. I appreciate the introduction. And I do want to welcome everybody to the Great Commission Co-op. Hello? Okay. To the Great Commission Cooperative Workshop on Engaging the Unreached. The Great Commission Co-op is a coalition of 21 different missions agencies working together to mobilize the church to take the gospel to the unreached. But we have to ask the question, who are the unreached? And so that's what this workshop is about. We're going to clarify what we mean by the unreached, and then we're going to hear stories about creative work amongst the unreached in various different people groups. And so we're going to start with a video. Mark, before we do that, just want to mention we have actually six of the different organizations represented here, so of the 21. So Mark on tech back there, thank you for your participation. And let's go ahead with the video.
What is a UPG? UPG stands for Unreached People Group, but to understand what that means, we need to first talk about people groups. When Jesus told his followers, "Go and make disciples of all nations," the Greek words he used were ta ethne, meaning all ethnic groups or people groups. So what is a people group? A people group is basically a group of individuals that have a common sense of history, language, beliefs, and identity. It is pretty much a group of people that considers us, and everyone else, them. While there are about 196 countries in the world today, there are over 16,000 distinct people groups. Let's look at Pakistan as an example. That is one nation going by our English word, but ethnically Pakistan has over 400 distinct nations or people groups within its borders. Around 7,000 of those 16,000 total people groups are considered UPGs, or unreached people groups. A group is considered unreached if less than 2% of their population is evangelical Christian. That is, it has too few true believers to evangelize and disciple the rest of the people group. Almost 3 billion people fall into this category. Over 3,000 of those 7,000 unreached people groups are considered UPGs, or unengaged unreached people groups. These people groups have no churches, no believers, no missionaries, and no one actively focused on engaging them. 95% of all unreached people groups are located in the part of the world between 10 degrees latitude and 40 degrees latitude, stretching from North Africa to Southeast Asia. We call this the 1040 window. It's in the 1040 window that most of the major non-Christian religions hold sway. Collectively, they are known as the Thumb people: tribal, Hindu, unreligious, including many Chinese, Muslim, and Buddhist. Jesus said that the gospel of the kingdom would be preached as a testimony to ta ethne, all people groups, and then the end would come. Less than 3% of our total cross-cultural missionary force is working with unreached people groups. We must go to the unreached. At the same time, it's estimated that over 350 unreached people groups are living in the United States today as immigrants, refugees, and international students. We must welcome the unreached. Christ commands us to make disciples of all nations. Jesus is alive. His mission for us is clear, yet the task stands incomplete. Together, we can change that.
Okay, thank you, Mark. There seems to be, in the church today, in the North American church, confusion about what is an unreached people group. Many Christians think about the unreached as their neighbors or their co-workers, people who don't know Jesus. And of course, evangelism among the unsaved is important. We don't want to downplay that. However, we want to highlight what is unique about unreached people groups and frontier people groups. These are people, as the video said, these are people with no opportunity to hear the gospel, and they can go through their entire lives without ever meeting a Christ follower, someone who follows Jesus. They might never hear the gospel clearly proclaimed in a way that they can understand. And for many of these groups, there is no local church, there is no gospel messenger, no missionary, no outreach, and for many of them, there's no Bible in their language either. And there's maybe no or very little evangelistic materials. In 2,000 years, the good news of Jesus has not been brought to them. I want to tell you about a young woman I met at a conference several years ago. We were talking, she was from China, and she was a Christian, and I was very interested in asking her, so I asked her, when did you come to know Christ? Did you know about Jesus when you were in China? Did you become a Christian in China, or did you become a Christian in North America? Because this was in North America. And she said to me, when I was in China, I knew there was a God, but no one there could tell me about him. And she lived in Shanghai, where there are churches. There are some churches there, but she could not find access to the gospel. Access. No chance to hear. How can they, we know that in Romans, Paul says, all who call on the name of the Lord will be saved. But how can they call upon the one in whom they've not believed? And how can they believe if they've never heard this gospel? And how can they hear if nobody goes to tell them? And how can they go to tell them if they are not sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. We're going to hear some stories now about gospel messengers working among the unreached. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mike Reimer of Avant Ministries. He's the executive director of Avant Ministries, and he's going to interview our panelists today. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Well, welcome here. It's wonderful to have each of you here and those at home as well. You've heard my name. Can you hear me okay? No. All right. Why don't we just go through our panel and give your name and the organization that you're with.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming and tuning in. And my name is Regina Wang, not Regina, but Regina. And I work for SIM Canada. I'm the Director of Mobilization.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Tim Wong. I work for Team of Canada, and I'm based in Ontario, and I work near mobilization and church engagement.
Good morning, everyone here. My name is Queena Lee, and I work with Interserve Canada. We're an international, interdenominational mission sending professionals to the unreached peoples.
And again, I'm Mike Reimer, and our head office in Canada is here in Winnipeg with Avant Ministries. All right, we're going to start with Regina. The question is, with all the unreached in the world, who are present in our context?
All right. Well, what you're seeing on the slide right now, it's this is statistics that came from in 2016. So this is way back, right? These are those people that have been granted residency, permanent residency, And we are not including those that are international students or, like refugees in this count, but you can see how many of those that are present in our community. And so as you have heard from the video earlier, that the 1040 window, these people are from majority part of North Africa and all of Asia, West, Central, South Asia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. Most of them are from Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, and animistic, or Jewish, or atheist background, actually. So these are people that God has brought into our community. And so the next slide, we're actually highlighting just a few of them. India, Syria, people from China, Pakistan, Iraq, and other places that we would not have an opportunity to actually engage with them if the Lord has not brought them here.
Okay, and I forgot to mention, there will be a time for questions from you. And so if something sparks a question, just hang on to that. And at the end, we'll love to try to answer those questions. All right, Regina, so these people are coming to us from all these other countries. What are some of the challenges that they face when they come here?
Yeah. Well, I myself is a newcomer to Canada back in 2015, so I kind of can speak on this on a personal level. I don't have a family here except for my husband's family, but even with that, there are certain challenges. And so I do have the support of my husband's extended family, but it's still different to find someone who's actually going to be a friend. That's the most crucial one. I remember someone sort of walking me through, how do you use the public transit? It's like, I don't drive, so back then I don't drive. And so I don't know, how do I get from one point to another if I wanted to get groceries? I also remember, someone telling me, oh, here are the good grocery stores where you can actually get affordable groceries that you would need for the house. Because for someone who's newcomer, you have a very limited budget. Things that you can afford are the things we cannot afford as newcomers. And so very, very limited. And basically, it would be nice to have someone to have coffee with. Just someone to just sit with us and hear some of our challenges. You may not have the answers, but it's actually nice to just have someone to listen, and we can share some of those burdens. Even though you don't have the solution, we don't need the solution. We just need you to be shoulder to cry on, and someone to just listen to us and know that we have a friend. And be someone who's advocating on their behalf. And so as you hear, this might be trivial things for someone who have grown up and got used to. These are familiar things for many of you who was born and raised in Canada. But for anyone who's coming here, those are the basic things. And these are the tools in which the Lord can use actually to build bridges so that we have an opportunity to build relationships as well as build the trust, right? Because if they can't trust you, why would I want to hear what you have to say? So, and I have listed there a lot of other things that, embedded in that, but I thought, just share as a newcomer myself. It took me 3 years to actually build a community around me, despite of having my husband's family. That is one community, but outside of that, I am still looking for a friend, right? So.
Wow. It sounds like any one of us could do those things, doesn't it? I mean, people are coming right here. We don't even have, it'd be nice if we could send more people overseas, but we could make a difference right here. And I encourage us to open our eyes and see the nations right here. All right, what are some examples of what others are doing to reach some of these people groups?
Yeah, we have 50 workers across Canada that's working among different people groups. A lot of them are located in many different places, but I'm not going to share all of them because we're going to be staying here for a long time, right? And we want to just highlight one. This is an outreach among the migrant communities in Alberta, actually, those that are from Mexico. I'm not sure if the video is going to play. Is it going to play? Yay.
My name is Lane Elliott, married to my wife Sherry. We have 5 children. We serve with SIM, and we serve in the Red Deer to Calgary corridor. I serve down at a ministry called the Encompass Center, and there I teach English. I have primarily students who come from a Hispanic background, and that works very well for me since we used to serve in Latin America. And so I feel like God has strategically placed us there in order to welcome these new people and help them learn English, but primarily show them the love of Christ. Starting a Bible study at the English Center in Spanish, and it's open to, of course, all Spanish speakers. And there has been a lot of interest in it. And we're going to have lunch after the class and enjoy fellowship. That's a very Hispanic thing to do. And we'll enjoy getting to know each other better. And then I'm going to explain the Bible to them over the course of, I'm not sure how many months, starting Genesis right through Revelation. The other component that I have is I've started a ministry at Olds College, also to the international student body. There is currently no known outreach to them, and so it's just getting off the ground. But I have started a ministry to the international students there. It is a place that needs much prayer. There are many, many, many young students there who don't know the Lord. They come from India and they come from all over the place. And if you could pray with us that God would give us favor to bring the gospel into that campus. My name is Lane.
That we do love food and hangout time. So if you didn't get anything else from this, like, bring food and just, have hangout time. And if you have, if you're desiring to actually want to find out more about, how do I start those conversations, actually Love New Canadians have a lot of materials, and they are here in this conference, and you can ask them for like those conversation materials that you can actually use when you meet someone that is new in the country. I just also wanted to point out, and this is not for the script, is actually the people that are coming new here, they're not going to ask you of what they needed. They're not going to say that because they don't want to inconvenience anyone. And so you, who has an awareness and who knows, be a help. Like ask them 7 times. It's like, do you need this? Would you need some help on this? They're gonna say no at the beginning, but you have to keep asking. So keep asking. Don't take their word. Like saying no at the beginning is actually a total no. No, not really. It's actually something like you just want to know whether, are you really wanting to help me? And so they need to find out if you're really wanting to pursue that. So keep asking, keep engaging, and be that friend, being available for them. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move over to Tim now. I think transitioning a little bit further afield, some of us have heard of BAM, Business as Mission, and others also Marketplace Ministry. And so I'm asking Tim, what are these methods, and are they the same thing?
That's a good question. BAM basically is an acronym that stands for Business as Missions, and there are essentially 2 types of BAMs. The first type are non-profitable businesses that are basically typically run by missionaries who use businesses to gain access to a country they can't normally get access to. So they start a business so they can get a working visa, paperwork to be in the country. They may not know anything about actually running a business or how to run that, but this business that they've started gives them access to the country. The second type is what I call legitimate businesses. This could be a successful company that is saying, you know what, I want to move my manufacturing to China or to India because it's cheaper to produce my goods there. And they may actually legitimately want to expand a profitable running business and move into a country that is what we would call creative or closed access. Countries that don't typically accept or receive traditional missionaries. In marketplace ministry, The idea is that you're using your profession to gain access to these countries. Teaching is the most easy example. Teachers have been going all over the world as a teacher because everyone, wants to hire a teacher. They want, English to learn English. And so that's an easy way to gain access to a lot of countries in the world. But, engineers, accountants, IT, we see a lot of people, even their companies, moving them to other countries, and you're gaining access through your profession. And while there's a lot of overlap between the two, the easiest way to differentiate BAM and marketplace ministry is in BAM, you are a job creator, right? You're starting something that's going to create jobs, and in marketplace, you are taking a job.
Okay. All right. So these are businesses, but how is the gospel shared in these contexts?
Yeah, it's amazing. In some countries, I knew this toy factory owner who basically invited a church and missionaries to come run an evangelistic Christmas program, and I was part of that in his factory. He had like I think 4,000 workers, opened up and says, come and do anything you want, share anything you want. And we ran in a complete evangelistic meeting amongst them. We were amazed. We couldn't believe what we were doing. So we're actually doing this in this country. And he just opened it up. And another one was we would go into this country, and we were in the executive offices of Walmart running monthly Bible studies with leaders and managers from Walmart. And we were just doing Bible studies and prayer meetings and things like that in this closed country. It was amazing, the access. Some companies can be very open. If you're there for legitimate purpose, there are some overt ways of doing ministry. But there are also subtle ways, right? How you run your businesses. Being a Christian witness. One executive in Tokyo working for a Fortune 500 company, he said that people knew, as soon as people knew that he was a Christian, how he acted became his testimony. He didn't have to share from the Bible. How he treated his employees, how he acted with good, honest business practices, even with other business owners who's saying, hey, you should do this or do that. He's saying, no, I'm a Christian, I'm not gonna do that. That became a testimony in itself. One of the best examples, my background's in education, and I was a former school principal. One of the schools we work with in this closed country where it's illegal to teach the Bible, they teach in the elementary, they call it character education classes. I love the term they use. And in the high school, they teach philosophy. Nice and general, right? And in their philosophy classes, they use textbooks you might be familiar with. They call it the Old Testament textbook and the New Testament textbook is what they call it. And they don't have chapels. They have assemblies where they don't sing worship songs, but they sing what they call American-style anthems in our assemblies. And it seems like, well, isn't it obvious? But on surface, they're not doing anything illegal. They're not teaching the Bible. They're being very subtle and very subtle about the way they're doing it. One of the best testimonies is non-Christian parents saying, when we walk into this school, there's something different about this school. There is a different spirit in the way that the teachers love and treat the students, the parents, and the community that we haven't experienced anywhere else. Sometimes your strongest testimony is your actions and not necessarily your words. And the fact that you're a Christian living in a creative access country, you have the opportunity to live an authentic Christian life and let your life and how you treat others and love others be that testimony.
Wow. Many of our organizations use these methods as a tool, not in every country, but where it fits the best. So are there some advantages and disadvantages in using BAM or Marketplace? Yeah,
definitely. The advantage, of course, is why do people have to use BAM? And there's only one reason. BAM and Marketplace exists because traditional mission agencies, traditional missionaries can't get into a country, right? There are a lot of countries in the world that if you are a Christian, they will not let you into their country. And so it's access. Tim mentioned it. How can people hear if there's no one there to tell them? Well, how can people tell them if they can't even get their foot into the door, right? And so we need BAM, we need Marketplace, because there are places in the world that unless you have a legitimate access to that country, there is no way for the gospel to get in. And so it's just a necessity that you have that. I think the other thing is legitimate purpose, right? While you're there, people don't have to ask you a question, well, why are you here? Right? One missionary said, my life changed when I started working for the factory because people didn't ask me, well, how are you here? What's your job? Like, where's all your money coming from? He didn't have to answer those questions. What would you think if you were in Canada and the next door neighbor from you, you never saw go to work, you never saw go out? They seem to live in a nice house, they have a car, and they seem to be living okay, but they never seem to be going to work. Would you be wondering, I wonder what they're doing here? Where's all their money? You'd be suspicious of them. And you know what? It goes both ways, right? In places like this, being called a missionary is very dangerous. That's the last thing you want to be known as is a missionary, because being labeled as a missionary in these countries, at best, will get you kicked out of the country. At worst, you can be detained and incarcerated, right? I think the other benefit is successful businesses help people. In one of our organizational partners, there's this work in Cambodia where they have rescued workers from the sex trade. And they're making these beautiful arts and crafts to sell to tourists. I mean, this business is legitimately helping people in need. And another partner with our GCC, they have a business where they take recycled plastic paper and they hire the poorest of the poor in the Philippines. And they're turning this recycled plastic into the most beautiful wallets, purses, and tote bags. This is incredible what they can do with recycled plastic. But they're legitimately helping people. And those are the advantages.
Cool. Wow.
And of course, there's disadvantages, right?
Okay.
Let me get into that.
Yeah.
It's harder to do church planting. Just like not every missionary can be a good business person, the reality is not every good business person can be a good church planner, right? And in the heart of church planning is discipleship, right? And sometimes you just don't have that double skill set. And what really works is if you can have a partnership of both, right? Where you can have the business, but you can have that church planter there that can really understand and know the discipleship. And where there's no access, it's finding those local pastors and those local people to be able to do that discipleship. And I guess the last thing I would say is, while not being a missionary, known as a missionary is a good thing in closed countries, not being known as a missionary can be a bad thing to the sending part. A lot of churches, even organizations, tent makers, BAMers, marketplace people, they're enigmas, right? We don't know what to do with them. We don't know how to classify them. Do churches really send out people like this? And I think we need to recognize that this is an opportunity. We need to recognize these people as legitimate workers and legitimate people who are reaching the unreached.
All right. We're going to pass it over to Queena. What are other ways that businesses can advance the gospel that maybe haven't been thought of yet?
Right. Thanks, Mark. Mike. Sorry.
It's okay.
So Tim, thanks. A successful business blesses people. It creates jobs, creates a product that people are happy to use and to recommend. Usually it generates profit in order to be legitimate. So we commonly refer to the bottom line. What are your net profits and losses? What if there were other ways to measure success? Our impact on people, social impact, our impact on the environment physically around us. Harvard Business School calls this multiple bottom lines, triple bottom lines: profit, people, and planet. I'm going to illustrate this with a couple of stories because that usually helps the concept settle in. There's a farm in Cambodia. We heard a bit about poverty, human trafficking. We'll hear tomorrow about people being locked into their homes during the pandemic. And there's a farm in Siem Reap, upcountry in Cambodia, where there's a tremendous tourist industry. A Swiss family moved in and established a chicken egg farm, selling eggs. Their motto is happy chickens, better eggs, and fair jobs. Let me tell you where that comes from. David and his family hired a farm manager, not a Christian, Buddhist, who had one wife and one son. A son? Yes. Well, within 4 months, this farm manager had 6 kids in his home. David investigated, like, where did they come from? Were they his children? Did he steal them? And if they were his children, where had they been in these 4 months? We learned that because Excellent was paying the farm manager on time and the anticipated agreed on wages, the farm manager and his wife could feed their children. They could anticipate what it would cost to live this month and what they had left over for next month. And they brought home their children who previously had been sent away into care homes. Their previous employers didn't pay them on time or what they had agreed to be paid. And so the parents couldn't afford to feed their children. They got sent away. Being paid fairly and regularly helped this family bring home their children. Wouldn't we all like to hear that there's family reunification? David's team at Excellent realized their social impact. They also operate their barns using some solar energy to supplement the hydro that they consume. Electricity in Cambodia being very expensive, they reduced their carbon footprint, a word that we know. They reduced their carbon footprint and their dependence on the electric generation system in Cambodia, improving their environmental impact. I have another story. I'm going to bypass this one, actually, and take us to Mongolia. 20 years ago, there was a Mennonite family, the Yoders, who moved to Mongolia. Sorry, Mark, this is off my script. The Yoder family were establishing a dairy farm in Mongolia. Previously, Mongolians had milk access only in the springtime, during calving. The Yoder family showed the Mongolians how to store milk, how to transport it, and to sustain their milk access year-round. Would you believe the project was so profitable that it was replicated and earned the Yoder family a government award? It's called the Model Dairy Farm. It's been replicated. People have become Christians and started churches because of the influence of this family. The farm manager in Cambodia became a Christian because David and his team earned their trust. They told them and they showed them what Jesus does to our lives. This is how businesses can transform people and our impact on the planet.
All right. So are there some pitfalls and some God-honoring ways to handle them?
Of course, there are pitfalls. Business involves taking risk, and things aren't always smooth sailing, especially when you move a business overseas into another country where people are hostile to foreign businesses. The COVID-19 pandemic shut down tourism to Cambodia. Excellent was situated in a tourist area, and their customers were all the hotels and all the guest houses in Siem Reap. No tourists means no orders for eggs. But hens don't know this, and they keep laying. The Excellent team reached out to their international contacts, received donations for the eggs, and delivered them to families who now were hungry because they'd lost their jobs in the tourist industry. David's team at Excellent stewarded their resources, the hens, and the relationship with the people in their town. The Lord said to us to steward the earth, bring these resources under our control, honor Him. The Excellent team tried their best. They made less profit that year, but they benefited people and the planet.
Wow. Thank you guys for sharing that. It seems to me that what they've been talking about is none of us could say, I can't do anything. I think, thinking of the verse, God said, Moses, what's in your hand? And I say that to us. What do you know how to do? As has been shared, sometimes missionaries aren't the greatest business people, but I think in this room there's quite a few people that are either educators or business people or farmers or have something that you know how to do that you could serve the Lord both here in Canada or abroad. just incidentally, you know, when we came back, we love animals, and so we keep about 100 laying hens at home. So we make a lot of contact with people that want to buy some eggs. Well, these hens get old, just like, you know, you were talking about, and we found that all these immigrants want to buy chicken the way they remember it back in Nepal or India or Pakistan, because they're old stewing hens, you know, and they have the same flavor that they're used to. Well, we're plucking chickens together with a man from Nepal and sharing the gospel. Who knew that you could use something so simple? And yet I think every one of us have things like that. Just wanted to share, there's the last slide with 2 pictures. Keep going, I think. We served in Bolivia for 13 years, and it's been shared that business can help you get into a country to get a visa, also that you can be more legit in front of people that don't understand missions, that you can also bless nationals by providing jobs for them and sharing the gospel through your business contacts, both suppliers and sellers, all of that. Well, we had another problem. In Bolivia, I wanted to set up a lending library with books and videos and that kind of thing, and people said, you can't sustain that. Who's going to look after it? And so we had a little bit of a problem there. How could we have somebody look after it without always inverting mission money? And so we found Julio over there. He's a pastor. He just went to be with the Lord about a month ago. But while we were there, we gave him a job at this lending library, and he's a great pastor, so he counseled people that came in for books. We thought, how can we sustain that? And so all of a sudden, somebody approached us and said, we have a dairy farm, and we can't sell all our milk, and we're thinking of making ice cream. Would you sell our ice cream at your library? And I thought, oh, man, ice cream and books, that doesn't go together very good. That's going to be a mess. And yet we gave it a try. So we started to sell this wonderful creamy ice cream, and that started to make enough money to pay Julio's salary. And then a spin-off of that, I had probably a 12-year-old son at the time, and he wasn't ashamed to go up and down the streets of the market with his cart, you know, like the poor kids. He would go up and sell ice cream. Well, one day he was invited into the town hall, like where the mayor's office is, to sell the ice cream because it was so famous in our town. And so he started to sell to all the public workers in that town. They got to know where our library was, and some of them visited that. It was amazing. The last day that we were there, after 13 years of ministry in that town, we were invited to go to the mayor's office for recognition, and they wanted to make sure Devin came along because they knew him better than the rest of us. And they gave us the keys to the city, a plaque, and recognized us that way. And there were so many benefits to being like someone that understands a little bit of business. We provided employment. Now the mayor guarantees our spot for the radio tower up on the hill, so that nobody bothers us, even though we don't have a title. He said, just put it up there and I'll back you. It's amazing what God can do when you're faithful in these ways. Questions? Are there questions or comments? Yes. How important is it to know the language of the people? Does someone want to take that?
My brother, do you mean to welcome new Canadians among us, or when we, either way, language is important. Just start with greeting words. When we move ourselves overseas, we start with greeting words and then learn to survive, taking the bus, ordering a taxi, getting food, and we progress from there. Depending on how long we stay, we also need to adjust our language abilities. Language teaches us a lot about people's culture and what's important to them. It is important. We don't all have the ability to learn. So I'd say start with greeting words and see what the Lord allows you to learn after that.
And I agree with that, but I will say is don't let language be the barrier, though, right? Because a lot of the teachers that we send overseas, they don't speak the language at all. I mean, they're working in schools that English is the language of instruction. Now, they do learn the language because it's important that they learn it while they're there, but it's not like they have to have the language before they go. Even starting a business, I started my business in China, and I don't speak Mandarin. And, but we had a lot of interpreters and things like that helped us along the way, and we were able to start those businesses.
And I also want to add that if they are here in Canada, for you to just learn 1 or 2 or 3 phrases, actually you ask them, how do you say this in your language? It gives them the feel that you're really, really interested in wanting to connect with us. So, yeah.
Yeah, language is important. Another question. Yes, in the back. Okay, the question, I'll just repeat it for the folks at home. Which organizations could you contribute to be able to support something like this?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, the reality is most of all the major organizations have adopted BAM and Marketplace as part of their ministry. You could go to any organization and they will have some sort of work in Marketplace or ministry. I mean, but one organization, part of the GCs that are not here is Crossworld. That is 100% their whole platform. They don't really do any church planting. Their whole platform is BAM and Marketplace.
Well, it's using BAM and Marketplace to plant churches.
Yes,
but
that is their focus, is
right.
what I'm saying.
Right.
Is their focus and ministry focus is using BAM and Marketplace.
Yes. Yeah, and like Avant we've found that a lot of Persians have left Iran and are looking for a business. So you can support. What we're planning on doing is supporting 3 projects of people that have ideas of how to start their own business so that they can be bivocational church planters, so that they can dedicate time to plant churches but also sustain themselves. And so that's another method.
What I will just add to that really quickly is where the real support needed, though, is ultimately, I believe, is the churches, right? When you are not because especially a lot of these businesses where you don't raise support because you're going off supported through the business, when you're not on the ledger on your church as a supported missionary, you're often forgotten. And your work that you're doing isn't recognized as an extension. Remember, as mission organizations, we say it's the church that sends out the missionary. And so what we need is the church to recognize these people as, just like their traditional missionaries that they send out, they need to recognize these people as traditional workers, non-traditional workers that they are also sending out.
Okay, any other comments there? No? Okay, another question? Anyone, comment? Okay.
We've referenced a few other agencies. Regina named Love New Canadians. Their booth is here in the hall. With businesses that can end the cycle of poverty and be vehicles of the good news of Jesus. I'm going to send you to Food for the Hungry, and Wendy Taves is there, and she has a seminar this afternoon about ending poverty in Jesus' name to bless communities.
Okay. All right. Well, there's another seminar going to be happening at 1:15. And the title is Worldly Christians. No.
Yeah, we do. This is another Great Commission Co-op seminar at 1:15. It's called Living as a World Christian. And so that will be in about a half an hour, 45 minutes from now. So I want to invite everybody to that. I do want to bring this back to the whole focus of this seminar was on unreached people groups, and we've heard some great opportunities, some great examples of reaching out. But I do also want to mention about my own experience, just if I could. I lived in Thailand, and we think, okay, how many Christians are there in Thailand? Thailand is an open country as opposed to a creative access nation. And in Thailand, we had been there about 10 years, and we heard about this one province which had a great need for gospel messengers, for missionaries. And so my wife and I moved there in 2008, Christmas Day, 2008. When we arrived there, there were about 300 Christians in the entire province of 750,000 people. Think of Winnipeg, about 750,000 people. Think of Winnipeg as with only 300 Christians. It's a very different picture. You start to get the idea of how hard it is for many of the people in these unreached people groups to hear the gospel, to ever have a chance to hear the gospel. And we were working alongside one of the few churches. There were 5 or 6 churches at that time. And this church, small church, 20 members. And we wanted them to have this vision of reaching out to the 6 districts around us that had absolutely no church. 0 churches. And one of the things that has been shown in Thailand is that in a town where there is a church, a person is about 100 times more likely to become a Christian than if they're living in a town that has no church. So just the possibility of becoming Christian, of coming to Christ. So I just wanted to say this to bring it back around to the concept of reaching the unreached. We've got to go. The church has got to prioritize going to the unreached people groups. Yeah. I don't know, Tim, Quina, Regina, Mike, do you have anything else you want to add? No. Okay. Want to thank everybody for coming. This has been a really a privilege to share with you today. And thank you. Do visit our booths out at the Great Commission Co-op area. Mostly in this area, there's a few others around. You've got the list probably of who's in the Great Commission Co-op. And look forward to talking with you. Thank you very much.